video I'm going to explain the sign up process and its validation. So if a user try to sign up without entering any user information, it will get this validation error. And if a user sign up without giving the last name, it will give this validation, enter please enter your last name validation error. If the user gives an invalid email like this, it will get this invalid email address. The password has to be between 5 to 20 characters. So if I give 3 character password, I will get this error. And the mobile number must be a Sri Lankan mobile number. And it must have 10 characters. So we click the sign up. As you can see, we successfully sign into the system. Now I will show you my sign up process code. So in this index.php, inside this div, I have all the sign up the sign up design. Inside here we can see the input elements. I have used the bootstrap form. So each input have a unique ID. The reason for this, because I am going to take these input values and go and have to send it to the backend server to create the user. So in here inside this gender, you can see I haven't hard coded the genders. Instead of I send a data SQL query to the database and got this information and show it here. The way I did it, first I created this file called connection.php. So if we go to this connection.php file, you can see there's a class called database and it has a variable called connection and 3 functions. So the first function is very important because it checks whether the database connection exists or not. So if the connection doesn't exist, if the database connection doesn't exist, create a new database connection. Create a new database connection. The reason I'm doing this, because a user when a user interact with the e-commerce web application, that user can send many requests to the database. So each request will create a new connection. Therefore, the database will send us an error called many connection. To prevent that error, I'm using this if statement. So if a user already have a database connection, no need to create a new connection. So this function helps us to prevent that error. So the first thing I have done, if we inside this index.php, first I brought this file here, connection.php, and then using this database class, I'm going to call this search function, and as you can see, this function accepts a parameter, and I'm going to select everything from gender as SQL query as the parameter. And then the first thing it's going to do is, first it's going to set up the connection. It's going to call this function and going to set up the connection, and it's going to execute this SQL query, and it will, whatever it returns, whatever the results it returns, I'm going to catch those results and assign it to this rs variable. And using this rs arrow key numbers, it will give me the number of rows this result set has, and then I'm going to iterate to those number of rows using a for loop. So in here, rs arrow key fetch assoc will helps me to get the values of the result set. And after that, inside the for loop, I'm going to use this option tag, and first using the value attribute, I'm going to give the value as the ID. So I'm going to give the gender ID, because when the user is creating, the user wants not the gender but the ID of that gender to create the user. and here I have given the gender names. So as you can see here, the gender names. So in here, after this code, we have this button. So the sign up button, when the user click on this sign up button, it will invoke this event, the sign up function. So if we go to the script.js, inside this sign up function, first thing it's going to do is it's going to go inside this index.php and get all these input fields and assign it to these variables. And next I have created this new instantiated the new form data and assign it to this f. This form data helps me to send information as key value pairs. So first I'm going to use the f.append. So inside this append, first I'm going to give the key and the value. So fn.value means this form's value. It will give us the value. So like that I have created, this is what this code does. And after that, XML HTTP request, I instantiate it and assign it to R. This helps me to send these data or these values to the backend as asynchronous. So the first thing I have to do is to send, before sending these values, I have to open using the open method. It will create a bridge between the backend and the front end. The first thing I have to give is the post, the method how I'm going to send. I'm going to send this as a post method, and this is the second one is the location. I'm going to send my information to the signup process.php file, and I want to send this as asynchronous. That's why I have given the boolean value true. If I give false, I'm going to send this as synchronous. So after that, r.send will send the HTTP request. So inside the R, I have given this form. So these values will go to the backend. Now using this r.send, these values will go to the backend server. So if we go to the sign up process, the first thing I have done, I have again brought the connection.php file, because at the end I want to send this data to my database. So after that, what this does is it will get the values that sends me from the front end. So all these values, and it will get these values and assign it to these variables. So all these values are assigning to these variables, and after that, using this if and else ifs, I'm going to check the validations of these values, each value. So empty, inside this empty fname, what it check is whether this value is empty or not. So if it is empty, we will send this message to the front end. And str length or the string length, check the length of this first name. So if it is greater than 45, we will send this message to the front end. So just like that, we are checking all the values length and whether it is empty or not. And also in here, inside this email filter bar, checks whether this is a valid email or not. So if it is not a valid email, it will send this to the front end. And here, this in this else if, this regular expression, what this does is I'm checking whether this is a Sri Lankan mobile number. So we all know a Sri Lankan mobile number, first two characters have 07. The third character can be any of these numbers, and after the third character, any number can be between 0 to 9. And we are checking whether this mobile number that user sending us from the front end matches this expression. If not, we will send this to the front end, this message. So after checking all these values, whether these values are valid or not, so if these values are valid, we will come to this last else statement, this last else. So inside this last else, again I am using the database class and this search function. Inside this search function, I am again sending this SQL query as the parameter, and whatever the result set comes, I am going to assign it to this rs variable, and again check the number of rows that get the number of rows and assign it to n. And if n is greater than 0, that means a user with this email and the mobile number already exists, because the email and the mobile number must be unique. So if a email or mobile number exists in the database, that means I'm going to send this message, user with the same mobile number or email already exists. If not, we will come to this else. In this else, first thing, I have created a new date time and then a date time zone. So I have given Asia Colombo and assigned it to this TZ variable, and then the set time zone and give this TZ variable here, and then I'm formatting the date the way I want. I want the date to be first year, then month, date, and then hours, minute and second. So this is how I want my date. So after that, I'm using the database class again. So inside this database class, we have a function called IUD, means insert, update, delete. So it also accepts a parameter. So I'm sending this insert into SQL query as the parameter, and it will accept it. First, it's going to go this setup function and check whether the database connection exists or not, and after that it will execute this insert query, and it will create the query, and it won't return anything, so the type is void. And if it is successfully executed, we will get this success message, and we will send this success message to the front end. And now, how we are going to cache these messages or this text from the front end? We are going to do that by using r.onReadyStateChange. r.onReadyStateChange, its job is to keep track of the HTTP requests. So it accepts an anonymous function. So inside this anonymous function, I have used a if statement. So what this if statement means is r.readystate equals 4 and r.status equals 200. If this is true, that means our response is successful. So if it is successful, I'm going to use r.respondText and assign it to t. So whatever the response we get, this text response we get, we are going to take it and assign it to this t value. And then inside again another if, I'm going to check whether t equals success or not. So if it is success, we will show a successful message to the user. If not, we will display a error message. So now I'm going to again show it to you. So I'm going to give a So as you can see, we successfully registered. That means this message was sent to the front end and it catches it, and we got this successful message. The user got this successful message. And in here, if you go to our database, eShop database, you can see a new user called Tertiary was created. So this is all for this video. Thank you for watching.